Yeah, the big story is obviously ETH. So let's cut right to the chase. So looking at BTC and ETH, Bitcoin has kind of come back up slowly over the last couple of days. It sits a little over 69K right now. It's been around that 70K marker. But Ethereum, obviously the big dog. This is what we've been waiting for some time. We have Ben Cohen and all these other people that are Bitcoin maxis on Twitter all the time talking about this is finally the death of Ethereum. I don't know if he's ever actually said that, but he talks about Bitcoin dominance all the time. But yes, potentially the news that the SEC is asking all these entities to file the proper paperwork to get ready for an ETH ETF is extremely bullish. Obviously, it was a catalyst here in the short term for the ETH price action. We have seen Ethereum close the gap on BTC to a somewhat respectable number finally, after it's been just basically dog crap for weeks now. So yeah, it's very good to see this. We're going to talk about, fundamentally what this will mean with the ETH ETF and where we're going from there, as well as looking at the price. Basically, the odds on the ETF being approved after all this recent news jumped from 25 to 75%. We had discussions, and I understand anybody who would be skeptical of this or suspect of this news when they first hear it, because we don't, usually trust our government anyway, and maybe it's too good to be true. But we are now seeing, and again, we'll talk about this from a price perspective and fundamental, but I think what we're seeing here basically is a Democratic Party who is pulling out all the stops to, win an election. And, the SEC is going to be part of that right now. Obviously, Gary Gensler is a Democrat. They want him in there kind of as their mouthpiece and everything. So I think that, this is purely a political move. And I think, if the Democrats would happen to win the election in November, we would see kind of back to normal as far as policy goes. But what do you make? I'll let you take wherever you want to first, Ewok. If you want to look at price, ETH closing the gap, whatever you want to do, but also just fundamentally what your thoughts are about this huge, like you said, total curveball out of nowhere. If you tell me that you thought this was going to happen now, I'll call you a liar. Most people were waiting for the one that was coming in August for an ETH ETF, but now we sit here 24 hours away, sometime tomorrow, of when the original deadline is. So what do you make of all this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I still have the lines from the last week when we talked about it. I said, this channel that would probably fall into August sometime before it made a run up. Well, it decided back here that it was about to take off and break right out of there. So yeah, you don't have to call me a liar. I didn't expect it at all. Right. And the funny thing is, they kind of pulled the same thing with Bitcoin when it first launched that ETF. There were a lot of people that speculated that it would be passed. And remember all the FUD, somebody hacked the Twitter and of the SEC and said it was passed. And then all of a sudden, 30 minutes later, they said, nope, sorry, that's not true. There was just a lot of weird things that happened. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but while things are looking bullish, they could still say no again, and I think you'll see this come back down into that channel if that happens. So we obviously need to kind of prepare for that and not get ourselves over leveraged. Please don't set a long right now on Ethereum, because that could be a mistake, especially if something like that did happen and it goes back down and you get liquidated immediately. So that's
now. Your statement begs this: what if you bought 170,000 ETH right now? Would you do that at this price level right now?
So that's absolutely not.
Okay.
Your statement begs this: what if you bought?
What happened? Whoa, I don't know. I'm hearing myself in the background here.
Yeah,
you must have unmuted me or something, or unmuted the stream in your background.
Oh, it popped up on my phone. That's crazy.
Okay. Yeah, that totally free. I couldn't tell it was my voice or not at first. That was very crazy. But it's a joke, obviously, there, as far as aping into ETH right now.
No, it's not wouldn't be advised to set a long, no matter what the situation is, just in case things do go sideways or they do push it back to the next one because things aren't quite ready or whatever reason there may be. We do look at this Bitcoin price. It really didn't have the kind of move. Usually these things move together, but this was clearly a Ethereum only type play. And I don't know if you saw Richard Hart's tweet yesterday about the actual amount of ETH that is really out there for sale. You know, if
Mm,
somebody were to purchase, let me pull it up, because you know, the way it said is, if somebody were to actually purchase $100 million of ETH right now, that they would be in it for about $5,400 per ETH on Uniswap, 4.6 thousand on 1inch, and apparently there's other places where you can get it for 4.2. Well, you know, that's still at least $500 over spot price. You know, if you have smaller amounts, just because of the slippage and the amount available for sale, that's how much you would push it against yourself. So pretty interesting statistic there.
yeah.
But again, you know, I hate getting ahead of ourselves, and until it's actually passed and through, although a lot of these places have added the, you know, the symbols, the tickers and everything like that to their pages. So it is looking good for now.
It is definitely looking good. Yeah, and you know, we talked about like I was referencing obviously the Sack wallet buying all that ETH at right about this price, basically, what, a couple of months ago or something at
Yeah.
this point.
Yep.
You know,
And I think
which
that wallet is back in profit now, finally.
or basically even at the moment, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and again, I mean, I guess if you have that much money sitting there, it the exact price you buy at may not necessarily matter if you know you're really anticipating something like this happening. So, and we just saw it, and I will say, like, not to you know victory lap it, or you know hindsight's obviously 2020, but like obviously it would have been like, hey, ETH just ran, you know, green for month and month. Why not wait till it goes down a little bit more? But then all of a sudden we do see, like, again, we just said it. Nobody thought that this was going to be approved here in May. Still hasn't, but it's starting to look likely. This
Yep.
shows you that these things can turn on a dime. So, you know, everybody that's laughed for the last 60 days or whatever at that buy, you know, isn't also, you know, in control of that much money themselves, I imagine. So, I mean, we'll see how that story kind of goes from here.